I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 321. Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. How are you today? I'm getting ready to go for a nice big hike on a beautiful day. But before I go on my hike, I was trying to figure out exactly what you needed from me. And this is what I figured out. One of the biggest issues that I have with most of my clients, and I know you're going to relate to this, the letters that I get, the complaints that I get, the aha moments that I get from people, usually one of the biggest questions people always have is this: Dr. Deb, I'm so good during the day, but at nighttime, blah, 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 fill in the blanks. So what I have for you today is an interview that I did with a podcast listener just like you who wrote me a letter on nighttime eating and wanted my advice. And instead of me writing her back, she was brave enough to want to come on and let me interview her and coach her. So this is actually a live session with a podcast listener. Her name is Carol, on her nighttime eating. And I know that it will all resonate with you too. So this is one of my most valuable downloaded podcasts of all 320 podcasts that I've done. It's been downloaded the most, and I know it's because it resonates the most. And the other thing that I want to tell you is that this listener ended up becoming a client, and she comes back on again to talk about her journey with me and how her nighttime eating changed. But for this podcast, I want you to sit back, listen, take notes, because if you are one of those people who say to me, Dr. Deb, I'm so good during the day, but at night, then you have to listen to this interview. So sit back, take a walk, take a bath, whatever you do, but enjoy this coaching session that I did with Carol. Hello, Carol. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so glad that you were willing to get coached.
Well, I'm delighted to be coached.
You're going to be talking about things that are going on inside of you. And I think that when you do that, what you're going to have is you're going to have a whole lot of people going, that's me. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. Why did you decide to be coached? I'm really curious.
Well, I've been listening to the podcast, and I felt that when you did some of the recordings with people who had specific questions or situations, that I related to them, and it was really helpful to me to hear you coaching them. And I thought, I have something specific and I would like to be coached, and I'm sure there are other people who have the same issues, and so it would be a good thing to do.
Well, you are absolutely right. And that is a very good way to think about this. So I like the way that you're managing your thinking. So I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll read the letter that you sent me. And for those of you who are listening to this, I know a lot of you send letters into me, and hopefully I answer them or I send you something back. But especially with this letter, I think that a lot of people will resonate. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it first, if that's okay with you, Carol, and then I'll ask you some questions. How's that sound?
Perfect. Great.
Okay. So this is how you start. You say, hi, Dr. Deb. I've just started listening to your podcast and I'm really enjoying them. I also downloaded the podcast companion and I have a question. My biggest obstacle to weight loss is eating too much at dinner during the work week and continuing eating until bedtime. In one of the podcasts, this was a problem that someone asked about. And your response was that using willpower to stop this behavior would not work over the long term. My question is, what is it that we should be using other than willpower to stop eating when we are not physically hungry? When I am in this red zone, because that's how I think of it, I know intellectually that I do not need to eat anymore and that I am physically full, but I crave more food. I feel hungry or over desire. I am trying to understand how to stop or get past these feelings. This type of overeating in the evenings after work has become habitual. So I know that I have a lot of mental work to do to stop it. So thank you in advance for your thoughts. Okay, so why don't you, to start out with, just give me a little background on yourself, like how old you are and what, if you have a little bit of a history with weight. So I think people can understand a little bit about where you are, and then we'll talk about this letter.
Okay. I'm 46, about to be 47. And I've always, I think since the time I was about 14 after puberty, I've always been like a little bit chubby, at least in my opinion, although I look back at photos of myself at that age and I think, wow, I would love to look like that. I would say that I probably have always felt like I need to lose 10 to 15 pounds. And I did Weight Watchers after having each time I had a kid, I would do Weight Watchers and I'd get back down to a comfortable place and then it would kind of creep back up. Mm-hmm. And I've tried lots of different programs, styles of eating, and I always do end up losing the weight to a place where I'm happy and I feel good about myself. And then it creeps back up when I start incorporating normal eating, or what I considered to be normal eating, back into my life.
Okay. So right away, what I hear from you is you think that there's normal eating, mm-hmm. and then there's another kind of eating.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds to me like the other kind of eating that you're talking about are your diet plans.
Correct.
Right. So let me ask you this. What would you rather do? Do your normal eating, or would you rather do your diet plans?
Normal, of course, normal eating.
Of course. So yes. You have to be really careful how you talk to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because the type of eating that I talk about in the podcast and how we talk about it it's being connected to your body, right? That's all it really is. And we want that to be normal.
Right.
Most of us don't know what normal is. We just think overeating and eating foods that don't serve us is normal. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you want to be. I think you think that you want to be normal. Mm-hmm. And that there's something wrong with you because you can't do normal eating.
Yes. I feel like when I am doing what I consider to be normal eating, which is kind of not worrying about carbs or whatever the thing is that, I shouldn't be eating, that's in my mind, like what a quote unquote normal person would be doing. They wouldn't be worrying about all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. Wouldn't it be lovely to not have to do that in your own mind?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think what happens, because like the story you're talking about for yourself is basically my story, only I was a little bit older, but I was more like 25 to 35 pounds over the weight. It sounds like you're the 10 to 15 pounds all the time that you're taking on, gaining and losing. So it's like, why do you think you don't gain, more than 15 pounds?
I don't know. I got genetics. I have no idea. I don't know.
But that's really interesting to me. Because somehow you can do whatever you think is normal, but when you get to a certain number, you stop. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think I get to a place when I say, like, I don't like the way I'm feeling or looking, and then I've got to do something about it. Mm-hmm. That's when I stop.
And so you're very motivated at a 15-pound weight gain to lose your weight.
Yeah, really like 10. 10 is where I start to feel like, okay, I've got to do something.
Okay, so there's a lot of people out there going, oh my God, 10 pounds. If I Oh, because there's people out there that have 100 pounds to lose,
Yeah.
50 pounds to lose. But what I want you to know and what everybody that's listening to, it's all the same problem in the mind. The burden is the same. You have 100-pound burden in your mind,
Yeah.
right? Because it bothers you just as much as somebody that has more weight to lose. It's the exact problem.
Yeah.
And I just think you get to a point where you just go, I've had enough of this. And that's probably like, what was it in my podcast that said, I don't want to do what I've been doing again?
I think it was listening to your history of how you did Weight Watchers and gained and lost so many pounds. I think you said like maybe 250 pounds over the years.
Altogether, yes.
All together.
Yes.
And I just so identified with that cycle of losing weight, feeling good, celebrating it, and then gaining it back, and just continuing to do that again and again and again. And I just don't want to do that anymore.
Okay. So here's a question for you. So your letter basically is saying, and this is my guess is what your normal eating is that you like to eat at night.
Yeah.
And that's the normal eating that you want to go back to that you don't get to do when you're doing your special plans. Tell me where I'm wrong.
It's a little bit different. I think when I'm doing special plans, I might have the nighttime eating, but I'm restricting the kinds of foods that I would eat during that time period.
Okay. And would you be restricting how much you're eating too?
Yeah, I would be trying to, but it's a really tough time for me. Even when I've lost weight, I've been able to, what I end up doing is kind of what you talked about, restricting during the day and then having a lot in the evening or in dinner through bedtime, but it's stuff maybe that's not what I would consider to be, I don't know, bad, or, it's more like fruits and vegetables and, things like that kind of fill you up, maybe like a piece of dark chocolate, something like that to be the sweet thing instead of having a cookie. But it's still a volume of food in the evening.
Okay. So and I can really relate to this too. So even when you are on a special diet plan and not doing your quote unquote normal eating, you still like something where you can be eating when you're not hungry at night.
Yeah.
And you can still lose weight.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. So really what you're wanting to do is to get rid of that need, that over desire to eat at night when you're not hungry.
Correct. That's exactly it.
Okay, which is really, I got to give you a lot of credit for wanting to do that because you could keep your weight off without it.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's still, I realized that if I didn't eat at night, then it just wouldn't be a problem. Like if I could just have a regular dinner, like a normal, healthy dinner, and maybe something, I could have something sweet and then be done and not go back into the kitchen and not go back into the pantry. I would, I'm sure, be so much healthier and thinner.
Why don't you tell me the last time that you overate? And we can just look at it.
Yeah,
at night.
I will. It was a few nights ago, and I've been trying to be much more aware and conscious, so that's been helping. But even though I was aware of what was going on, I was looking at my hunger scale, and I knew. So I had dinner.
Okay, tell me exactly what you ate. We're going to bring everybody through it. Like, where were you on the hunger scale when you started your dinner?
Okay, so let me see if I can remember this. I probably started dinner at like a -2.
Okay, so you know that you were just getting ready and you were just starting to be hungry, and that's where we like to eat. Okay.
And, I actually wrote down, I have a food journal from that day, so I'm going to find it. Yes.
Are you keeping food journals now too?
Yes, I am.
Oh
I downloaded your materials, and I thought I better do this so I can really see what's going on.
That's so beautiful. Everybody listening to this, you need to do what Carol's doing because you get to tell me. These are the beauty of food journals, is now we get to see exactly what was going on.
So that evening, it looked like I had something to do for work. So I had, in the afternoon, I had something around 4, it was an energy bar to kind of, I was a -1 and I had it as a snack and it filled me up and I was good.
+2?
And then, pardon me?
You were at a +2 when you finished the energy bar?
Yeah, I was. I was at a +2. So that was at 4. And then I had an event. So I didn't get home until 9. And so at 9, I had dinner.
How hungry were you?
I have -2. I wrote waited until felt -2, bar filled me up. So I was ready to eat, but I wasn't starving at 9.
Okay.
Because that energy bar was a very dense energy bar. So I think it carried me over. So I had 5 meatballs and a Caesar salad and cauliflower fried rice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have felt +2. So I was good. And
Okay.
then
Yep.
and then I was at +2, and then I put a bit of storm and fog.
Okay.
So,
What happened?
So this was like a little bit after I finished eating dinner. My son came downstairs and started talking to me about some things going on at school, and it made me really anxious. And I put my emotional hunger scale at that point was like a -6 talking about this stuff. And so I have the list of all the things that I ate, which were almonds, mandarin oranges, cheese, dark chocolate, milk, tortilla chips.
And you weren't hungry, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
And then I have +5 when I was done.
Okay. So did you start eating at a +2?
Yep.
Okay. You started at a +2 and you went to a +5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure if I'm calibrating that right. Like maybe +5 is really +8. I have no idea, but that's what
Well, the only way you have an idea is to do what you do. You would give it a number.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more you're going to understand your numbers. Now, this is the thing that I find really, really interesting. Number one is that you figured out your emotional hunger.
Yeah.
It was a -6. So what I want to show everybody and show you right now is how you can figure that out. So if -10 is the worst you can feel and 0 is neutral, where were you feeling that in your body, this -6 vibration? Do you know where you felt that anxiety?
I don't know, but whatever it was made me think like what's going to make it feel better is if I start snacking.
Uh-huh. Right. So do you know if you felt it in your body at all? Are you aware?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So one of the things that's really interesting to do is to start being able to feel these physical emotions because they lie in your body just like physical hunger. And the interesting thing to you is I know you don't think you know your numbers very well, but my guess is you were filling up the -6 emotional hunger. And that's probably what you were trying to fill up with food because you brought yourself up to a +5, or we could say even maybe a +6, which would fill that gap up.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is just so fascinating to me. And I see this all the time. So you're really getting into your emotional hunger. And I think you're onto your physical hunger scale too. So first of all, you got to give yourself a lot of credit for this, to see this. Now, you asked me what the difference is between willpower.
Yeah.
So number one, you did not use willpower on this, right?
No, I was, I remember going into it when I started with the almonds, like, putting my hand in this bag of almonds and I was like, you're not hungry. What are you doing? And this is an urge. And even though I knew that, I still went forward with it.
Okay. So what we want to know is number one is that this urge was so strong that you couldn't resist it.
Yeah.
And if you want to know how uncomfortable it is, don't give into it because that's where you're going to feel it. You didn't even really get to feel it.
Mm.
And the reason that you didn't get to feel it is because you started eating.
Yeah.
And I know what we tell ourselves is you just can't control yourself. And there you go again. But really what is happening is you just don't want to feel how bad this is going to feel. And what you're going to feel is the thought that is creating that feeling, because the feeling is the urge. You're creating the anxiety. You're calling the anxiety the -6, but really it's the urge that's a -6.
Interesting.
Because an urge is a feeling too, and it's created by a thought. And what you were thinking, your little primitive brain was going, this is way too much for you. Let's just get going here. And you're going, you're right. Now, willpower, if you were to use willpower, it would be, this is really hard. This is really hard, but there's no way. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And you're going to feel terrible while you're going through it.
Right.
But you won't eat. And that's what we call resisting an urge, which is willpower. It's like putting handcuffs on your arms and not eating. And the problem with that type of resistance is that sooner or later, it just leads to, sooner or later, your brain goes, we can't do this anymore. We got to go back to normal. This is when you get into normal eating for you. This is not normal. And so you really have to watch your brain around what you think normal is, because normal is your happy place for you. And what you want is you want this to be normal.
Right.
And you want to call it that in a way that makes you feel positive about it. Because right now you're either doing normal eating, which is what this is. This is what you want to go back to.
Yeah.
This is what you're missing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. But I don't want to go back. I don't want to do this.
Well, but you do. In the moment, the urge is so strong. And the thought we really want to look at, and this is really beautiful for other people to hear too, is that there is something in your mind that is creating this urge, this -6, this, oh, I got it. It's irresistible. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Irresistible. Right? And there's a thought that's creating that. Do you know what it is?
It's that urge, but I don't know
what.
It's the thought.
Yeah, the urge is a feeling, and all feelings are created from thoughts. So there's a thought that creates the urge, and it's very repetitive. So it's really easy to miss it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think, what I'm thinking, I am thinking to myself as I'm, reaching into the bag of almonds or grabbing, it's like, I want this. I just want it.
Okay. And that is the thought. As simple as that is what's creating the urge. This is not rocket science. I know you were looking for something really, secretive.
Yeah.
But that's what many of the thoughts that create urges are, that simple. I want it. Now, it's not like I want it like a 0 or a -1. I just want it. It's like, I want it now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like the screaming toddler that I talk about in my podcast.
Yes.
Screaming. You can't stop me. I can eat it. I'm not going to sit here and feel this. I got to have it.
Yes.
That's what you're up against. And the problem is that since you've probably been 14 years old, you've been rewarding this.
Yeah.
And so it's a reward center, and it knows it's going to get it. And all through every diet plan and everything that you've ever done, your little brain knows you're going back to normal.
Yeah.
And that is what you want to stop. But in order to stop it, you've got to be able to know that just because you want it doesn't mean, I don't want to cuss, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything any more than when you take little kids into a grocery store and they see candy and they start screaming for it. It doesn't mean anything just because they're screaming for it unless you keep giving it to them.
Right.
Then what they learn is that all they have to do is scream louder and they'll get it.
So what is the thought process that I should be going through to tell the screaming toddler to stop screaming?
Compassion.
Okay.
Because what you want to do is actually allow it to go through. I know how bad you want it, sweetheart. Just like you could take a screaming kid. I mean, what are you going to do with a screaming kid?
Exactly what you've just said. I know how badly you want it, sweetheart, and now we need to leave the store.
And that's probably what you're going to have to do at that point. It's like you probably can't continue grocery shopping because they're going to scream because they're used to getting it.
Yeah.
So for you, it's just like this loving kindness that you want to apply to yourself that you actually don't think you deserve. And this is not easy work, but we call it managing urges. So we can mindfully manage a thought with a thought, which is, I want it. And it creates this strong urge. And then the managing thought is, sweetheart, you really don't. It's not going to give you what you want. I know how bad you want it. And when you can get through that and allow it and go through the whole thing, you become just a drop more powerful.
And is it your a drop? Is it your experience with your clients that in the same way that, years of building up the habit of doing something like what I've been doing, if you start not resisting, because that's not what we're talking about, you start managing your urges, do they dissipate? Do they go away? Do things change? Or is it always that, the screaming toddler has to be dealt with?
Okay, so let me ask you this as a parent.
Yeah.
If you have somebody screaming in the grocery store and you stop giving them what they want, do you usually find you can take them back in the grocery store and they stop the behavior?
They might whine a little bit, but they know they're not getting it, and then they'll stop. But it doesn't go away entirely.
Okay, but see, what I find is that over time they totally forget. Over time. It's like if you stick to your guns, this is just childhood development, and this is just discipline. How you discipline a child.
Yeah.
Is if you're consistent, they'll stop because it doesn't work. The only reason your brain's doing what it does is because it's rewarded. Our brain centers, that part of our brain, the way it works is it works on reward, and it's getting rewarded. So if you want to, this is Pavlov's dog with the salivating right now at night, and you have this negative emotion and you're like salivating.
Yeah.
And if you want to stop it, you have to manage it. And the management, this is like we call managing urges. And what you probably have done many times in the past is resisted it or used willpower.
Yes. That's all I've done.
That's all you've done. So you understand what the willpower is.
Yeah.
And the allowing is to actually being able to see the thought for what it is and to manage it with a new thought and then practice it. Because like what I have my clients do is I have them actually create an urge worksheet where you write down the thought that creates the urge for you. And what I do with all my clients is as simple as I want it. That is probably one of the most common thoughts that throws tantrums. I want it, or I see it, or it's there. And we say, oh, yeah, right. Okay, well, here you go. As opposed to just because you see it, just because you want it, or just because it tastes good. That's a really good one. It's delicious. Like that's the reason we should overeat for no reason. I mean, just eat even though we're not hungry because it tastes good. There's no reason in the whole world to eat because it tastes good. You eat when something tastes good, when you're hungry, and something can taste as good as it can possibly taste. And then when you're at a +2, you're done. In the evening, my guess is that there's a lot of things going on. Like, I'm not sure what you're doing in the day, but my guess is you probably have a lot of thoughts about what evening even means to you.
Yeah, I've really tried to think about why this is something in my life. And it's the evening is when I finally get to relax, when I finally get to release. And I think eating has become part of relaxing.
Beautiful. So now you know that too. For everybody that's listening, that was my MO. I believed it was time to relax and that food was for relaxing.
Yeah.
That is a lie you tell yourself. That is not true. Food is not for relaxing. If you're hungry, there is nothing more that will make you feel better or relax, for that matter, if you're hungry. It will calm everything down. If you're not hungry, it does nothing.
It actually ends up making you feel worse after you realize that you've eaten a lot.
Exactly. Tell me, if you want to feel less relaxed, just go against what you think is good for you.
Yeah.
And tell me how relaxed that feels. I just want to relax. Really, what you want to do is you want to relax from your day. And your little brain thinks the easiest thing to do is to eat. It's a lie. Sounds good. It's everything that you're saying, a million people out there are thinking just like you. But it's no reason to eat.
Yeah.
That's not really what relaxes you if you're not hungry. There are many things that can relax you. That's not one of them. And I'll tell you what, your brain's going to scream at you.
So I'm curious. I mean, I've been listening, to some of your podcasts, and you've talked about how it's like the river of misery or whatever you called it when you're not resisting, but you're managing urges.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear from you just some ways to talk to yourself or cope with those urges when you're going through them. Because right now, when we're talking about this, it sounds like, okay, I can do it. But I know in that moment, when it's 9:00 on a Thursday night and all I want to do is just go into the pantry and eat 10 different types of things, like what do I say to myself?
Well, first of all, you have to see what you are saying to yourself. You think that going in and eating all that stuff is actually going to help. And it's not. It's causing all your pain.
Yeah.
Right. And so once you can get around that, because the pain that you have now, since you've been, let's just say since 14 years old, we'll give you a little leeway that maybe didn't start up till you were 20. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like from 20 to 46. So for 26 years, it's been like that.
Yeah.
But really, in reality, it's just your little brain thinking it's the answer, but it's caused all of this suffering for 26 years. And you think that allowing an urge is harder than what you've been putting up with for 26 years. The answer isn't allowing the urge because that pain goes away. The pain that you have never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment you tell yourself this is better, but it's not. It gives you nothing. Now, I think you're a pretty smart woman. Now, you tell me, are you ready to get rid of 26 years of suffering to go through and manage and allow some feelings and urges to come through?
Absolutely.
Knowing that it will lead to everything that you want.
No question. I mean, it's a no-brainer, of course.
It's going to be not as much of a no-brainer when the emotions get strong.
Right.
The emotions are just urges. The irresistible feeling. But talking to yourself, it's not like your brain goes away. It's still there.
Yeah.
With a screaming toddler, screaming louder. And being able to love on yourself at best is, come on, sweetheart. You'll be okay. Every time you do it, it will get easier. The river of misery does not last. The river of misery of 26 years has not gone away because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And urges come from all kinds of things. I mean, it's not just eating, but we're talking about eating right now. But being able to manage those so that you get the results that you want is what you're looking at. And being able to tell yourself that you can honor your own commitment to yourself is major.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah. So the difference between willpower or resistance and allowing is what we're talking about. And that's what your question was about. And you're working on allowing instead of resisting. And once you allow enough, it will become much more automatic. Just like you could take a kid in a grocery store and they stop screaming for the candy.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain can be trained. That reward center can be turned off.
That's great news.
It should be great news.
Yeah.
It should be great news. And for everybody that's listening, I'm sure it's a different experience for you right now being coached than hearing me on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm taking you through it and letting you see your own mind.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
Yeah. Being coached, it's very specific to your situation and your exact need. So it is different.
Good. Okay. So do you have any other questions for me right now? Because I think this is going to be helpful for so many people because I get lots of letters. That's why I told you I wanted to coach you on the urges and what you call the red zone.
Yeah.
You need to change your thinking because when I think of a red zone, I think of something I can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
It's dangerous.
Yes.
And I think that makes you automatically just knowing you're going into the red zone makes it harder.
I agree. I literally have driven home from work thinking I'm entering the red zone.
Exactly. And so all I can tell you is a thought like that, like when you think I'm entering the red zone, how does that make you feel?
Terrible and kind of scared
and scared,
anxious. Yeah.
Okay. And so like what you're trying to do is stay away from those emotions to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
So you're creating them before you even get home.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're trying to use willpower not to feel that.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you specifically what to think. You have to know that what you are thinking isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And that the red zone is a choice. Now, the fact is you're home from work or whatever it is. There's a fact, or it's 6:00 or whatever. Those are facts. To think of them as a red zone is a option.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like if you, like it's probably the biggest learning zone you're ever going to have because it'll take care of everything for you. You'll never have a problem again.
That's amazing to think about.
Well, but it's true.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me this is the problem and you're saying it's the red zone. I'm saying like, what if it's the zone that changes everything?
Yeah.
Like if I get this, I get it all. I'm done.
I love that. I love that.
I'm done. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change. CHANGE.